Greetings and welcome to Growth Hacking Secrets. I'm your host Mohammed Siddique from Atlanta, Georgia, and the co-author of New Success Secrets available on Amazon. On this episode, we have a special guest, Gary L. Dennis. Gary is the co-founder of Digital Selling Secrets podcast and the author of a best-selling book, Digital Selling Secrets. Please join me to give a warm welcome to our guest, Gary Dennis. Gary, welcome.
Welcome. Hi, Mahad. Very excited to be here. Very excited to be on the podcast. Appreciate the invite.
Thank you so much. Let me start with this. Where were you? What happened? Who you were surrounded with that inspired you to become a best-selling author of Digital Selling Secrets?
That's a very good question. I think if you were to ask my English teachers in high school, they probably never would have guessed I ever would have written a book. So I launched a business a couple years ago focused on digital selling and helping international companies come to the U.S., basically help them find clients. And I had done a lot of training on different subjects. I just finished my MBA from University of Houston with a focus on sales leadership. But nobody knew who I was. Nobody knew who my company was. So I thought if I wrote a book, it would give me a little bit more credibility. So when I met with clients, I could give them a copy of my book. They could get to know me a little bit. They could get to know some information on my expertise and just help build that trust and credibility a lot faster than just cold calling people. So it's at the end of the day, people buy from those they know, like, and trust. And having a book on a topic that you that you claim to be the expert on, or that you are passionate about, or whatever it may be, when you have a book, it gives that instant credibility. So that's what initially inspired me. Now I enjoy it. Like writing, I never knew it would be something that turned into something I actually enjoy. So
Wonderful, Gary. So that's good. At least we both are author. You are a big one. I'm a little one somewhere. So you mentioned about you help international clients to launch their business in the US, and I'm just curious, how do you find them?
great question. Initially, and this was a couple years ago. Now my career has transitioned, but a couple years ago when I was doing this, trade shows and conferences were a great way to find clients. It's really surprising just networking with the different groups. You never know who you're going to meet. I know my team and I were doing some work at one of those shared workspaces, kind of incubator accelerator program, and somebody had heard about my business, and they said, "Hey, I know somebody that might benefit," and they happened to be living in the same community, or I forget whether it was a neighborhood or apartment complex, but they knew somebody, and then that person introduced me. So it's amazing just when you start meeting people and talking with other people, you never know who could end up being a client. Sometimes you find clients when you're not even looking for it.
Is there any systematic way to find it on, let's say, on LinkedIn or something like where you can identify a certain persona?
Absolutely. On LinkedIn's great because you can filter very easily. You can filter by title, by experience, by background, by college. And I think the key is to filter in a way where you find somebody that has a connection with you. Maybe they went to the same college, maybe they from the same town, maybe they're worked for a similar company. You, especially digitally, it's so hard to build trust digitally. So you really have to find that connection point. And the reason why it's so hard is there's a lot of people out there that aren't being completely genuine online. So
Gary, I don't mean to interrupt you. My question is how you identify an international business who is trying to launch in the US on using a LinkedIn. I'm talking about the search strategy. So my question is very, very specific. I get it. Everything I agree what you say. I'm not questioning that. But my question is a very focused one. If people can learn it, using your skills.
Yeah, absolutely. And with LinkedIn, you can filter by location, and you just have to start having conversations. I mean, there's not really a
someone is not saying, "Hey, I have international business. I want to launch in the US." They are not saying it. They didn't even put on their profile. Somebody could have been in France and they want to launch in US, and you can't ask every company in France on LinkedIn, "Hey, are you launching in the US?" That's probably not the right way.
Yeah, absolutely. And some companies, it's like any other form of sales. Like you may find somebody that maybe they're not looking now, but after you start having a conversation,
Yeah,
they
you,
may
you,
decide, yeah,
you
actually, I would like to come to the U.S.
I like that idea of seeding something, like guiding them to think about that way.
Yeah, I personally like that approach better than waiting for somebody to figure it out themselves. I mean, have the conversation early, and this is whether if you have that any type of business, really, the earlier you can get in on the stage, the better.
Gary, in first 5 minutes, I learned a lot from you already. I just wanted you to know. Okay, and I'm sure people who are watching this, they learned a lot too. So let's continue the remaining part of our conversation. What are the top three mistakes to avoid when someone is trying to sell digitally, online?
Yeah, the top three, probably the number one thing is to treat people like human beings. Don't treat them like just data. Um, we were talking about LinkedIn a second ago.
Yeah.
Don't just spam people's inbox with messages. Like, look at their profile, get to know them a little bit. Who are they,
Uh,
and try to have a genuine conversation with them.
yeah.
Um, I know I get so many messages where um, it's not they haven't really asked any questions.
Mhm.
So I guess that'd be the first thing is keep it personable, get to know the person a little bit digitally. If you search their name or look on LinkedIn or their other platforms, you can get to know people a little bit. And I guess the second thing would be ask questions. Don't just um, don't just go right into a sales pitch. It's like if you were at a networking event, you wouldn't walk up to someone and say, "Hey, Mohammed, I have this great business. Let me tell you about." You'd probably say something like, "Hi, Mohammed, how are you?"
Yeah.
you know, just something that's more personable.
Yeah.
Those would be the first two. I guess the third mistake to avoid is don't try to make it perfect, right?
Yeah.
Um,
This is a very good point. Yeah.
yeah, a lot of people they don't do anything because they're afraid that it's not going to look great or it's not going to be perfect. Just get started. And a lot of times, even if you make mistakes, people can appreciate that because you're being human.
And especially when you can acknowledge them, accept it. That gives you a lot of trust. People say, no, no, I'm vulnerable. That's it. That's your best strength, by the way.
Yes, absolutely. Be vulnerable.
Yeah, be vulnerable. Yeah, once you accept it, the people say, oh, he is genuine, he's authentic. When he does mistakes, he owns it. That's what people want to work with, those type of people. We all know we are going to make mistakes. So I'm sure it was not never really like before like this, and I'm sure you failed. That's how you learned all those mistakes, what not to avoid in early days. Maybe you want to share one of your greatest failure on when it's come to B2B digital selling, and what did you learn from that failure, and how did you recover from it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm still making mistakes. And I'm making mistakes daily. Just always trying to get better. It's never perfect. It's a continuous process. I know when I wrote my book, this book that's I'm talking about, it's on Amazon and you get a free copy of it as well. I have a site you can get that from. But the first time I wrote it, 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 it I like to think it's pretty good now. But for the the first time I wrote it twice. So the first time I wrote it, I'd never written a book before, and I finished it, and I started showing some of my friends and my wife, and just having other people look at it, and they gave me a lot of really good feedback. Right, so it wasn't the best. That was a failure, I guess. That first book was kind of a failure, but then once I got the feedback, I kind of sometimes it's hard to put yourself in your client's shoes or in other people's shoes, but just getting third party feedback and looking at it objectively and trying to improve from there. Does that answer your question, Mohammed?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This is good. Yeah, that reminds me when I wrote my this book, and I showed my daughter and my niece, and they were laughing. I said, "Who is going to understand your English?" I say, "Yeah, I'm trying. This is my best ever version. What I put right now. Now it's up to you to make it the 1.2 and 2.0 thing. You know."
Right, and it's tough to hear when you put your so much work into something and you're so passionate about it, but then when you get the feedback and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that's true, I probably need to
Yeah,
change the wording there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Cool, very good. So let's read this site and talk about your success secrets. So you stole my word secrets because that's the title of my book. I'm just saying. So, what are the top three success secrets of your success when it's especially selling B2B digital online? I'm
When
sure
it's
many are in the books, but I just want three only.
yeah. So the book goes into how to build that trust, how to build relationships, because whether it's online or in person, you're still dealing with people, right? Nothing's really changed. You're still communicating with people, and they have to know, like, and trust you. And so in the book, it goes into some ways on how to do that, how to get to know them, how eventually, maybe, hopefully, they'll like you, how to build trust. Um, and then it talks about how to use data. Now, this is not a data analysis book, and so for those of y'all that are true data scientists, you're not going to read this book and learn a formula on how to go through
Yeah.
data.
What is the
Yeah.
second success secret? The first one is know, like, and trust. What's the second success secret?
Um, the second success secret, I would say, would be creative, right? So there's so much training online, and you could follow in other people's footsteps and do that, learn from other people, but also come up with unique ways, like podcasts, like this podcast, for example, is a very creative way to build relationships with people. And so that's what my podcast is used for primarily as well. It's just to meet people, get to know people, build relationships. It's a very efficient way to do that. So be creative in how you build relationships, so you could save time. At the end of the day, you only have so many hours in the day.
Yeah.
So that would be number two, I guess.
Number three.
Number three, don't be afraid to fail. Be a leader. And that's a huge one, because so many people don't get started because they're so afraid of failing, whether it's a business, whether it's writing a book, whether it's starting a podcast, or whatever it is. You got to have that confidence and courage to take that first step.
Wonderful. So tell us why someone should read your B2B digital selling secrets book.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been in sales for 16 years now. I started out in 100% commission sales, working for Fortune 500 companies, and then I've also had my own business, starting a brand from that. It's kind of a unique, what we talked about earlier, finding clients in the U.S. There's not many companies doing that, and so I have some different perspectives on sales. And even if you picked up one thing in this book that helped you, I
Yeah,
think it'd be worth it.
put it on the front on the camera so everybody can see it clearly. Yeah, yeah. Keep talking. Yeah, B2B digital. Let,
Yep,
let me read it. B2B digital selling secrets by Gary Dennis, available on Amazon, is the Amazon best-selling book. And go and B2B digital selling that B2B digital selling secrets.com, and book is available for free. You only pay a small shipping and handling. Is that right?
that's right. Yeah, if you go to www, and for some reason you have to
Yeah,
type in
that
www, but
yeah, they will find it.
um,
www.b2bdigitalsellingsecrets.com, and
yep,
just pay a small shipping and handling and read it. Because if you're in B2B business and you want to grow your business, I wish I knew when I started in B2B environment. I could have read books like this before when I started. I did so many mistakes. Now we have a zero excuse of not learning and doing the right way.
absolutely. Yeah, you can avoid making the mistakes by learning from others' mistakes. And so
Absolutely.
so my book will give one perspective. You might read another book and it gives you another perspective. And it's a short book too. It's like,
Yeah.
I think it's like 60 pages long, so you can probably read it in a couple hours. So uh,
Wonderful.
yep.
Wonderful. Uh, Gary, we are about to wrap up. I like to have your few words about your today's guest experience on the show. Here's my question: what would you say about your today's guest experience on a growth hacking secret show?
The experience was fantastic. So it's very professional in the way. There's a lot of podcasts out there, but this was done very professionally. I enjoyed the interview, enjoyed the conversation. It was great to meet Muhammad, and I can't say enough about the digital experience here. So I'm all about building relationships digitally, and I'm glad I was able to do this morning.
Thank you so much for your kind words. Really appreciate it. Gary, what would you say as a final word?
For those of y'all that are out there that are thinking about doing something big, following your dream, just get started. Once you get started, that's when the ideas are going to get going. You could plan it all out ahead of time, but once you get started, you're going to get even more ideas. So don't be afraid. Don't worry about what people think. Just pursue your dreams and go after it.
Thank you so much, Gary, for sharing your wisdom with us today on the behalf of Growth Hacking Secrets community and our entire team. We really appreciate you. This is Mohammed Siddique signing off from Atlanta, Georgia. Until the next episode, all good wishes.